And good evening, albeit not a live one. Myself, Greg and Steph, bringing you some proper rugby league entertainment on a Tuesday night. Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning, how are you?
Good morning. Yeah, good morning. For those who, of course, people, it's good evening. No, this is pre-recorded. But get in the chat. Steph is going to be in the chat with you this evening. Greg and I, well, we will be in some fancy restaurant having a few little beers because we are on our jollies as you're watching this. Don't be, we're trying to get a tan like Steph.
I can't believe the budget's not stretched for me to be on holiday as well, but there you go.
Well, nothing to do with Super League Raw.
Sure. We're not together, boys. We're not
together. Absolutely not. Right, so it's a little bit different. Like it says there, like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you show your support in our absence. Let everybody know that you're watching Super League Raw Weekly this evening. We are going to be looking forward to, it's round 21, is it? Yeah, it's 21, isn't it? Round 21 fixtures. That'll be, of course, this weekend as you're watching. We're going to be looking at those. But before we do something a little bit different, we thought we would actually look at who our top 5 men of steel have been since 1996 to last season, of course. Yeah, I mean, we might come at this from completely different angles, but we've got a 5 to 1 in terms of who our favourite men of steel have been, who we would go in that order. Greg has done bags of work, so it's only right and appropriate that we start with Reggie. So let's go with our number 5s first. Who would you have in 5th place as your all-time man of steel since 1996?
In 5th place, I'd go with Paul Sculthorpe.
Right.
I think he won it twice. He won it 2 years on the bounce, 2001, 2002. I've given it for his 2002 season, or his 2001.
Okay.
I think he was more consistent, and he had a couple of consistent seasons before then. You know, when you think in 2001, Henry Paul was probably the player most people thought might deserve Man of Steel that season for the Bulls. But 2002, I mean, I think Saints won everything bar the Challenge Cup that year, and Sculthorpe was inspirational from that year, I thought. So, and there was only Paul Deacon who was anywhere near him that season, again for the Bulls, because the Bulls had that team at that time that were challenging, you know, Saints, Wigan, rather than Leeds at that point. So my number 5, for those reasons, is Paul Sculthorpe.
Right. Okay, you've gone number 5. Right, Steph. Have you got Sculthorpe in your top 5?
I have, yes.
Where have you got him?
Are we spoiling it?
No, I think when we've got overlap, I think it'll just flow a bit better. So where have you got Sculthorpe?
I've got Sculthorpe 3.
You've got him at number 3. Okay.
Yeah, and for the reasons like Reggie mentioned, having won it twice, there's only 3 players I think that have won it twice in the Super League era. I've not done as much research as Reggie has. Mine was on the back of a fag packet at 8 o'clock this morning. So yeah. But yeah, I think Paul Sculthorpe, what a servant to the game, and what a player for St Helens. But yeah, I had him at number 3.
Fair enough. I've actually got him at 2. I might come at this a little bit. I appreciate Reggie's gone season by season, happy days. And I know I have to say, ladies and gentlemen, Reggie's research into this, he's painstaking. In fact, he's put me to shame. And but I put Paul Sculthorpe at 2. And the reason I put Sculthorpe at 2, Reggie rightly said it, 2 back-to-back Man of Steel victories for him, which I think says a lot. No other player in the Super League era has done back-to-back Men of Steel. I think at the time he was a pivotal part of putting Saints into that stratosphere that they've been on ever since. I think he was a pivotal signing for the Saints. He was a Rolls Royce of a player, was Paul Sculthorpe. 2 World Club Championships, 4 Super League titles, 5 Challenge Cup medals, a European Championship, and 30 England caps as well. The man, for me, absolutely deserves to be in all of our top 5s. So many congratulations to Paul. I'm sure he's delighted. He's in them all, but I've got him highest ranked. I've got him at 2nd. Steph's got him at 3rd, and Greg has him at 5th. Back to you, Reggie. Have you got it at number 4?
Sean Long.
Sean Long. Okay.
Yeah, Sean Long. Again, I don't think this was probably his best season. He had better seasons either side of the season he won it, but again, for being consistently good throughout the season. I think that this was the kind of the start of the St Helens dominance right at the start of, I think he won it 2000. So again, Bulls and Wigan were still the dominant teams. He scored a lot of points that season. But again, I've done it because a couple of seasons before and the season after, he kept up that consistency even though he didn't win it. So that's why I've gone Sean Long at number 4.
Fair play. Thorn in the side of Warrington for many years. The amount of drop goals he put over. I mean,
I didn't want to put him in there, but
I'm sure. I mean,
I felt I had to.
Yeah,
there were some games in that period that he won on his own with drop goals or whatever. And bearing in mind, I think this was around the time that he got his face smashed in as well. I think it was just after. I'm not.
Terry Newton.
Yeah. And to come back from that's a proper Man of Steel knock. That is, because he's, his face was back to front when he got up from that challenge.
It was, yeah.
Steph there going into the delves of his brain to pull that one out. Good lad. Outstanding. Yeah, I mean, like I say, Warrington and Saints at that time, the amount of times go through the record books, the amount of close games, and Sean Long was the difference. The amount of time he broke Warrington hearts at that period of his career was quite incredible. I haven't got Sean Long in my top 5. You, Steph?
No, he was, but he was just nudged out when I was doing my thing. He was number 6 for me, so he just missed out.
Realio. Well, we won't labour the point. We'll go back to Greg, who's now going to tell us he's 3rd.
3rd might take you by surprise. Luke Gale.
Okay.
At 3rd, and again, when you look at the season he won, he'd been building up to actually winning Man of Steel, and the season after, but. He'd been leading point scorer, I think, 2 seasons before, and he was up there the actual season before in 2017. And he inspired, it was a great season for Castleford. He inspired them. I think they won the League Leaders Shield that season. They were runners up in the grand final. If it hadn't been for Zach Hardaker's indiscretions, who knows, they might have won it. Mm-hmm. But Luke Gale for me, because Castleford, no offence to Castleford fans, are one of the unfancied teams, and certainly at that time. And he was kind of the pivotal point of them winning the League Leaders Shield and getting the grand final that year, I thought. So Luke Gale, for me, again on a consistency for a few years before, he'd been knocking on the door, and I think he was unlucky not to win it the season before when Danny Houghton won it. So yeah, I've given number 3 position to Luke Gale.
Yeah. Well, let's be fair. Danny won it on what was a brilliant tackle.
Tackle won it for Danny Houghton.
I'm only joking to our black and white supporters out there. I'll be honest, very similar to you. I looked at those type of players. You had the likes of Daz Clark in there, the Luke Gales in there. The one I was umming and ahhing over, he didn't get into my top 5, was Jackson Hastings at Salford, for the pure reason that I think he dragged Salford that season to the grand final. He was absolutely outstanding that season in what was, let's be fair, an unfancied side. But like I say, he's not in my top 5. But I appreciate why Gale's in the discussion at Hastings, etc. Staying on Luke Gale, though, Steph, did he make your top 5?
He's a fantastic player, but unfortunately, no. Not in my top 5.
Fair enough. Well, we'll come to your top 5 in a minute, but like I say, we'll keep racing on. Mr. Nixon, we're going to stay with you. Where are we up to? We're up to second, aren't we? Who's just?
I'm probably going to get pelters for this one as well.
Go on, mate.
But for exactly the same reasons that I've chosen the whole of my original top 10 and now top 5, I've gone at number 2, Danny Brough. And I will probably get pelters for that. But the reasons...
The cowbell army you can hear the bells. I can hear the bells. I'm in Cyprus and I can hear all those bells from the UK, Greg. Go on, lad.
A to get back in Greg's good books for predicting Huddersfield wins this season. The same reason he'd been knocking on the door for so many seasons before he actually got named Man of Steel. And he took Huddersfield to League Leaders Shield that season. Again, an unfancied team. And, we often complain that perhaps the right player doesn't often get Man of Steel because it's a kind of a media choice and they go for the showbiz player. And going down the list, the list that I made, there were players who certainly deserved to be nominated and weren't, and should have won and didn't win. Yeah. And the ones I've chosen are the ones I think deserved to win on the merits of what they did on the field rather than what the media said about them that season. I think Danny Brough, he did get a lot of media and good media that season, but I think for 2 or 3 seasons before that, he was on his game, and he was at times unplayable. I remember he beat us on his own at the Halliwell Jones I think it was the season before, where he just turned the game. So for me, number 2, for those reasons, Danny Brough.
Steph, was he in your 5?
Nope.
I'd be stunned if he was.
But he's not in mine. But on Danny, I mean, look, Danny was one of those players, that could turn a game, and on his day was unplayable.
Yeah.
And he's one of those players for me that never really fulfilled his potential.
Yeah.
Would that be fair?
Yeah, definitely. I look at him like a bit of a Lee Breers kind of player. Very, very good, and should have played for England, but never did. He was a fantastic. His kicking game, the spiral bombs and stuff, what he used to put up were, a bit like Jordan Abdul now. That frightening, what he could do with the ball from a kicking perspective. But sadly, he's not made my top 5.
No.
I understand what you're saying, but I think those couple of seasons when Huddersfield won the League Leaders Shield, he fulfilled his promise.
Yeah,
for me.
He slid away, didn't he? Do you know what I mean? He seemed to fade away then, didn't he?
Yeah, I think injuries caught up with him. I think he took like Sean Long, but he took a few bad injuries, I think, shortly after that season, and he was never the same again, from what I remember.
Fair enough, mate. Right, here he comes, ladies and gentlemen. Drum roll. Mr. Nixon is going to tell you who his number 1 is. All-time man of steel.
And I'm going to get pelters again, because I don't think this guy will be in anybody else's top 5.
Go on, mate.
Pat Richards.
Ooh, where you go? Go on, mate.
Pat Richards. He was just a goal-kicking machine. He created tries. He scored tries. He was, again, for 4 or 5 seasons, the best player in Super League. In fact, the year Sam Tompkins first won it, 2012, I think, he scored more points and scored more tries, had more assists than Sam Tompkins. So, for me, he should have won it more than once, Pat Richards. He could have quite easily, on his stats, won it 3 seasons on the bounce. But I'm going for Pat Richards as my number 1.
Well, that will have caught many people by surprise. I saw your face, Steph. I take it Pat's not in your top 5.
No, but what I will caveat with is that, like I said earlier, my research was about 10 minutes. An essay. So,
I've wasted decades of my life.
I doff my cap to your selections, Reggie.
Happy days. Well, actually, Greg, this is going to surprise you. He made my top 5. I've actually got Pat Richards at number 4 for all the reasons that you say. I mean, like you say, at that point in time, I think the percentage of Wigan's total points would have been astronomical. I mean, you're probably talking about, I've not looked at this because I'll be honest, it'd probably take me forever to go and find this out, but I'm going to go and have it a guess that in that era, in that period, he probably was about 25-30% of Wigan's total point score.
At least.
About that. And when you convert, and let's not forget, he won the Super League title twice. He won the Challenge Cup twice. This is an NRL Premier. This is a guy who's a quality player. So, yeah, for me, I agree. I thought in that period, Pat Richards, he just kept the Wigan machine going. That's what he did. We've seen this over the years, the importance of a good goal kicker. All those years back, in my youth, Frano Botica at Wigan, used to win him games with his boot. Pat Richards, the same. We saw Sinfield at Leeds, and the list goes on and on and on. So vital to have a consistent and quality goal kicker. Pat Richards was that, but he was more than that. He was a solid player, good defence, good in attacking plays. Yeah, I think, would I have him won? Well, I clearly have not. But I completely respect why you have. I think, and this is the beauty about Super League Raw. There'll be people, shouting out all the glamour names at this moment in time. And I think a few of them are coming in a minute, by the way. But in fairness to Greg, guys, that's research, that's knowledge, that's players that he's watched and admired over the years on a Super League field. And you know what, mate? Fair play to you. I think
very much.
Yeah, I can't.
You know, and it's people will disagree with me, but for me, Pat Richards was a superb player. I wish he'd have played for Warrington. I really do.
Absolutely. I think there's many a Wigan player that you'd wish to play for Warrington. But anyway, now let's go to Mr. Sale. I think there might be a bit of overlap between me and Steph. I'm just going to have a guess at that. Who have you got at your number 5? We know you Sculthorpe's at 3. Who's 5, Steph?
It's one of Reggie's favourites, Mr. Sam Tompkins.
Sam Tompkins.
Yeah,
he made my top 10. Sam Tompkins.
Well, he's a double winner of the award, so that automatically qualified him in my top 5.
Yeah.
What he did at Wigan, but also I think he kind of revolutionised the players going to the NRL. You know, before Morley, before him, going over to New Zealand was a massive deal, and then the comeback. I remember watching the live game at Wigan when they announced he was coming back, and the emotion and and also the press and coverage that got as well. It was a big deal. Yeah. But then to come back and, you know, the grand finals he's won, and then to go overseas and again at Catalan and do what he did at Catalan, even right up to his very last season with that try to get him to the grand final. I you know, being a Wigan player, I shouldn't like him, but I just think he's been outstanding as a representative for Super League. Love him or hate him, he's done everything.
Yeah.
And do you know what? I sorry, Dave. I put him in my top 10 because of not because what he did at Wigan, but for what he did at Catalan. He was that final piece of that Catalan puzzle that finally, you know. They won the Challenge Cup. They've not quite managed to win a grand final yet. Should have done against Saints the other year, but for me, he was that final piece of the jigsaw that a lot of teams need if they want to kick on and win trophies.
Couldn't agree with you more, and I think him coming out of retirement is a bad shout, because had he not come back from retirement, I think our lasting memory of Mr. Tompkins will be that semi-final try. And I just, you know,
unless he scores the winner in the grand final.
Well, yeah, I don't think he's going grand final this year. I'll put my hat on that now. But yeah, I mean, what a try that was! Great. What's that, mate?
That's them definitely in the final. Then.
No chance. I've got him at 3. Steph, I'm with you. I think he's top 5 all day long. I've gone 3, 4 Super League trophies, 2 Challenge Cups, Young Player of the Year 2010, get me words out, 2 Man of Steel awards. But as you say, it's his longevity, it is his consistency. I don't think his second berth at Wigan was particularly impressive. His first was, and like you say, Greg, what he's done at the Catalan Dragons, absolutely outstanding. Who's your number 4, Steph?
Number 4 is the only current Super League player that I've got.
Go on.
And that's Mr. Bevan French.
Fair enough. Go on.
I think I say it all the time on Super League Raw when he gets mentioned. He's the only genuine superstar in our game in the Super League. You see how Wigan play when he's not playing. As good as Wigan are, and they can still beat most people, he's that one that takes them up to the next level, and he does things on the pitch that I've never seen before. So I had to go with a current player in my list, and I think he's more than deserves his place against some of the players that I'm going to name in my top 5.
Fair enough. I've actually got him at 5. He's in my top 5. And again, people might go, well, hang on a minute. But no, look, I think French, the last few years, has really come to the fore. Yes, on paper, has he won as many trophies as other people who've won Man of Steel? Perhaps not at this time, but I'll tell you what, if we was to do a programme like this in 5 years' time, I think we'd be talking maybe top 3. I mean, easily. Yeah. I think I completely agree with Steph. I think the man he's one of those players that is worth the entrance fee alone.
Correct. I think the word is mercurial.
Oh, mate, in the morning. Wonderful.
Great word in the morning. And again, he was in my top 10, but just missed out for the aforesaid reasons.
Linguistics of the highest order, Mr. Nixon. Right. Who have you got at number 2, Steph?
Yeah, because we've done 3 was Paul Sculthorpe. So yeah. So number 2, another Wiganer. So which is I'm not going to be allowed to the LSV tomorrow night. No, I think this is one of the greatest players ever to play the game, and also not just for his playing, but also for his leadership. I put him right up there with the likes of Sam Burgess, and you look at what he's doing at Ireland Rugby Union at the moment, the way he's turned that team round, and the way he gets them playing. So my number 2 is the one of the greatest Wigan players ever to play the game, Andy Farrell.
Tell you what, talk about talk it up. That's a proper talk up there for Andy Farrell. I mean, for mine, one of the most lasting iconic images ever in rugby league, with his nose done. Obviously, him and Sculthorpe having that tit-hard say. But what a player! I mean, you absolutely. He's not in my top 5, believe it or not. Not in my top 5, and I'm going to have to answer for that. I know he's not in my top 5. But yeah, I mean, look, this is all about opinions. I can't argue. I mean, it's one of them. If somebody says to me, Andy Farrell's the greatest ever, I sit here and go, it's a hard one not to, in many people, he will be. So you've just got to say, yeah, fair enough, Steph. Absolutely, I completely agree. Andy Farrell, quality player. Greg, you enjoyed watching Andy.
Can I put my hand up and say he wasn't even in my top 10?
Wow.
Because,
that's getting pelters.
Yeah, that's getting pelters.
Oh,
there's nobody can argue that he is one of, if not the greatest rugby league player of the last 50 years. But not for me. No, overall. But
Danny Brook is, but Farrell's not.
Well, here's my reasoning.
No, to be fair to Reggie, though, he has done the top 5 based on seasons as opposed to overall.
Andy Farrell should have won it before 96, but didn't.
Yeah.
In 96, there were more influential players. Bobby Goulding, John Schuster at Halifax scored more points. He should have won it before he won it in 96. And I think the one in 2004 was a retirement gift to him, if I'm being perfectly honest. Yeah, I'm going to get pelters, but,
Just remember he picked Pat Richards, you Cherry and Whites.
Yeah. And this is no disrespect to Andy Farrell. He should have won it more than twice. He should have won it before 96. But to be honest, put me in that Wigan team, and I could have been up for Man of Steel. They were that good. So, but yeah, and I'm going to the Brick Stadium tomorrow night.
You know,
good job.
Good job in disguise.
Dear me, mate. Dear me.
Thankfully, this will be coming out after I've visited the stadium tomorrow night.
Comedy goal, mate. Right, who have you got as your number 1 then, Steph?
Right, well, this is my Reggie moment now. I don't think people will have this one, but maybe they will. Maybe I'll be surprised. My number 1 is probably the greatest player I've ever seen live in rugby league. I remember when Lee first came into Super League in 2005, and we were beating St Helens 18-0 at half-time. Danny Halliwell scored a hat-trick in the first half, and I thought, here we go. We'd lost about 12 games before that, and we were on the verge of beating St Helens. And then they brought this player on, and he absolutely destroyed us. He's the greatest centre I've ever seen. He'd done things with the ball that I just... we talk about players living off someone. The wingers at St Helens had a field day off this guy. And my number 1 is the great Jamie Lyon.
But again, you talk Bevan French, you put the same bracket. I mean, the guy was just, he was just a diamond player, wasn't he? A diamond player.
Unplayable. Yeah. He didn't just have a great rugby brain and a superb offload and all that. He had speed, and he was for a centre. He could dust most wingers. On his day, he was probably one of the greatest centres that's ever played the game.
Yeah.
No, I can't disagree. Greg, you enjoyed Jamie Lyon as much as me, I'm sure.
Except when he was scoring against Wire in the last minute with the last touch of the game. Yeah, a great player. And having, you say that, and he's a great player, but he was even better the season after when he didn't win it. Yeah. He was even better. In 2006, when they gave it Paul Wellens, Jamie Lyon was outstanding the season after.
Yeah, again, he's one of those. He's one of those when we're in our 70s and we're finding it hard to. We're propping ourselves up with the bar, or the bar's propping us up.
I don't think I'll get that far, Dave.
Well, yeah, I hope you're far behind you, mate. But he is one of those where, you know, if that name came up in conversation, it'd bring a smile to your face because you witnessed a great player on the field of play, and he was that good. And again, you know, this is Super League Raw all over. You know, we're talking here. Not one of us supports St. Helens, but we appreciate a good rugby league player. So before people start throwing pelters, there's no bias here, ladies and gentlemen.
I've won two Saints and 3 Wigan.
Exactly, mate. Exactly. Right. So mine, as I've already told you, Bevan French. So I'll tell you mine, and then you can repeat your 5, and then we'll move on. So 5 was Bevan French for me. 4, Pat Richards. I agree with Greg. 3, Sam Tompkins. 2, Paul Sculthorpe. And I can't believe this man didn't make Greg's or Steph's. Arguably, the greatest player in the Super League era. Arguably, James Roby of St. Helens, an incredible player, one man of steel. His career, incredible. I mean, he's almost the Ryan Giggs of the Rugby League world since 1996. 2 World Club Championships, 6 Super League trophies, 4 Challenge Cup titles, a man of steel to boot. This guy, you know, and when you consider we were speaking on Super League Raw Weekly over Luke Yates going to Warrington and who was going to fill those shoes and how difficult that was going to be because of what he did for the Giants and Harry Rushton had the game of his life to take over from Kieran Cunningham. I mean, talk about a poison chalice. And Roby absolutely gazumped him. There's no doubt about that. Roby's career far outweighs Kieran Cunningham's career.
And Mickey Iam.
And Mickey Iam, exactly. So for me, you know, arguably, we give him a massive tribute last year on Super League Raw, and rightly so. My number 1, James Roby. So there you go. So I'll go back to you, Steph. Just do your 5 to 1 in reverse order.
Sam Tompkins, number 5. Bevan French, number 4. Sculthorpe, number 3. Andy Farrell, number 2, and Jamie Lyon, number 1.
And Greg, same again.
5, Scully. 4, Sean Long. 3, Luke Gale. 2, Danny Brough. And at number 1, Pat Richards.
Happy days, and I'm sure the chat has been proper buzzing over that one. There you go. But that is our top 5 men of steel. We hope you've enjoyed that. Like I said, we promised you we'd keep you entertained whilst me and Greg were on Sun Lounges, and that's exactly what we're doing. Right, we're going to now move forward. This is going to become the prediction show, as always. We're going to look forward to the fixtures that are coming up this weekend. And as always, let's give a little nod to our sponsor.
He's target 5. Here comes
Ooh, love that crunch.
Let me add a little bit of spice.
So here we go. These are the games that are coming up for round number 20. It's the Warriors taking on the Giants. Then the Tigers go up against the Leopards. That'll be an interesting one. The Wolves are going up against Hull KR. Hull FC, they are going up against the Saints. Then we've got the Rhinos going to the Red Devils and the Broncos taking on the Catalan Dragons. There, the games that are coming up this week. As always, of course, we don't know what's happened in round 19 because we're recording this beforehand. So if it's okay with the people that are watching, we're going to give you predictions at this moment in time. But in order to keep the Super League Prediction League competitive, I am going to allow Greg and Steph to resubmit their round 20 predictions the other side of the weekend. It's only fair that I do that. Right, okay, let's kick off with the opening game. The Giants taking on the Wigan Warriors. Massive advantage, of course, the Wigan Warriors over the years since 1998. The last 5 meetings, it's 4-1 to the Warriors. They've met each other twice this season. 30 points to 16 win in round 4. And then at the Huddersfield Giants, 48 points to 6 in round 11. Attack goes the way of Wigan. They're averaging 27 points a game this season, conceding 12. Compare that to the Giants, who are averaging 18 points a game and conceding 21. If they're averaging 18 points a game and Wigan are losing 12 points a game, it doesn't take a genius to realise that the Huddersfield Giants are going to have to put on one hell of a display against the Wigan Warriors in round number 20. That said, the Giants under Robinson have been improving. Who knows what's going to happen in the Warrington-Wigan game. That could have a bearing on this because, of course, if Warrington were to beat Wigan, they'd be well up for this one. But, yeah, on current form, where are you going, Greg?
Well, I'm going to really, really, really upset our Huddersfield Giants fans with this one. I'm going Wigan 18 plus.
Big win for the Warriors.
Yeah, I think the Giants have had a bit of resurgence, but I think the Warriors this weekend, depending, will be just too strong for them.
Yeah. Steph, do you see that the same way for the Giants?
Yeah, it's. I mean, obviously, it's difficult with not knowing what happens. This
will be just too strong for them.
Yeah. Steph, do you see that the same way for the Giants?
Yeah, it's. I mean, obviously, it's difficult with not knowing what happens this week, kind of thing. But I'd like to think Wigan at home will be too strong for Huddersfield. Although we've seen a great resurgence under Luke Robinson, it'd be interesting to see whether there's a new coach in place before this game as well, or whether Luke will think. Yeah, I hope Luke gets it and he carries on the great work he's done over the last few weeks. But I think for me. Wigan have got a tough game this week against Wire, but I think they're going to run out 9-17 winners in this one.
9-17, yeah. I mean, obviously, they've got the home advantage. I think it's going to be a minimum of 2 scores or more. I agree with both of you on that. Like I say, we'll do our official predictions the other side of the weekend, and we'll publish them. Trust me, all above board. But yeah, we'll do that nearer the time. But yeah, I agree. I think the Warriors will be too strong, regardless of what happens against Warrington. I think if they beat Warrington, they'll want to continue and to cement it. I have to say though, if they was to beat Warrington and they were to beat Leigh, because we'll also look at that game as well, they would have a cushion then. All right, KR will have a say in that. They could use this game perhaps as an opportunity to just freshen the squad up a little bit, which might play into Huddersfield's hands, but we'll have to wait and see. Before we move on, though, Steph picked up on a point there. Let's just have a quick chat about that. It might already have happened by the time this goes out, but we'll have a conversation about it anyway. Rowan Smith has been linked with the Huddersfield job. We know that the Cowbell Army were very, very vocal. Not all of them. Greg Roach was Watson in for a long time. But, there was a lot of discontent on the terraces, a lot of people turning away from Huddersfield Giants when Watson was at the helm, and they were telling the people that matters at the club that they didn't want Watson anymore. And finally, Ken Davey made that happen. Luke Robinson, as we've all said, has done really well in the short term, perhaps deserves it. Does Ken Davey, Greg, need to listen to the social media noise? Because since this rumour came out over Rowan Smith, it's fair to say the Cowbell Army have not been too impressed.
No, and it's a difficult one. To be fair, I don't think Ken Davey is somebody who'd be swayed by social media. I think if he was, I think Watson might have gone earlier in the season. It's a difficult one, isn't it? He's invested a lot of money into that club, his own money into that club. He dearly loves the club and dearly wants it to do well. And he has shown an extraordinary amount of loyalty to the old coach. I think I'm with Steph. I think Robinson should be given the rest of the season at least. So hopefully he won't. Hopefully he'll, in ignoring social media and other commentators, I think I think it'd be wise to stay with Robinson, because there has been a marked improvement in Huddersfield's performances since Watson went.
Great. Steph, can he afford, though, not to listen to the fans this time around? Thinking of tendencies and
I mean, it's always wise to. I mean, saying that though, the amount of stick that Derek got when he rebranded to Leopards, and then look at it now in terms of sometimes an owner can have a bit more vision in terms of knowing what's going on in the background and reasons for why. Obviously, as fans, you just love taking it on face value. So. You've got to respect Ken Davies' decision, but I think he should always take that into account. For me, I don't think Huddersfield need to panic and bring somebody in straight away. They're on, and very much an outside chance of the playoffs now, as much as Leeds are and Leigh. So you're better off, I think, just continuing. There's something going right there at the moment for them. And then if you do want to bring a new coach in, then you've got the off-season and between now and the off-season to do that. I don't think Rowan Smith is right for Huddersfield. I think you're getting somebody who's got no personality. And I think for that club, like you said, in terms of growing fan base and stuff, You need someone who's going to motivate not only the players but also the Huddersfield public to come and watch the rugby. And I think they need a big character in there if they don't go with Luke, who's obviously Huddersfield through and through.
I mean, I don't normally bring a conversation to a close, but I will on this occasion. What I would say is a bit of an agreement with you all, really. I mean, my view on Rowan Smith is, I think in the latter end of his time at Leeds, for me, outside looking in, looked like he'd lost the dressing room, looked like he couldn't control that players. What we know about Huddersfield, the stages of Watson, culturally, bit of toxicity, you know what I mean, in the dressing room. I don't think Rowan Smith going in there is the right thing on that basis. No, I think Luke Robinson, because as you rightly said, is Huddersfield through and through. You know, he is Mr. Huddersfield in that respect. I think he's got the players on side. He's got the respect to the players. Why would you want to change that at this time? I'm with you, Greg, and with you, Steph. Leave this till the end of the season. Let's see what Mr. Robinson does, because we're all a big. And again, you know, being patriotic for a moment, we'd love to see Luke get that job as opposed to Rowan getting a second chance and crack at Super League. You know, that's what we'd love to see. Right, okay, great chat as always. Let's move on to the next game, and it's this one. It's the Tigers taking on the Leigh Leopards. Now, this is massive. If Leigh, and we all said, we said on Weekly this week, remember when this is pre-recorded, ladies and gentlemen, we said on Weekly this week, we all fancied the Leigh Leopards for the game against Saints. That is an absolute. And we said, unbelievably, everybody went Leigh. When was the last time that Saints were never backed by anyone? But that's what happened. We might have egg on our face by the time this goes out. But if we are right and Leigh have beaten St. Helens, they cannot lose this game. They just can't. They have to go into this game and nail it, because they have still got an outside, very slim, but an outside chance, providing they keep the form and the wins coming, of getting into the playoffs. They'll fancy the chances. That said, you know, history's wrong. Forget the history on that one. But the last 5, 2-2 and a draw, remember. 2-2 and a draw. And there is the draw. Round 10 this year, 28-28, in what was a fantastic performance from the Castleford Tigers. You can take nothing away. And again, from a mindset perspective, that probably helps Leigh, because they will not be taking this for granted. Not that they did at the LSB. We just got to tip our hat to Craig Lingard and what his team achieved that day. Very unlucky, actually, not in the end to go and win it. I'm sure, you know, I know that at the time Steph had a few issues over the game and some of the decisions, but fair play. Castleford did a job. Look at the attack. Very much close. You know, that's not big, averaging 16 points a game. Castleford 19, the Leigh Leopards. But defensively, you know, the Leopards have been stronger this season than the Castleford Tigers on a game-by-game basis. Greg, do you agree with me that if all goes well against Saints, Leigh aren't going to allow anything to take them off the rails at the Jungle?
I think, to be honest with you, regardless of the result against Saints, I think Leigh are going to win this one. Yes, a win is a boost for them. A close defeat, will kind of probably give them the kick that they need. Not that they need that, you know, but the kick to go on and win the next game. I've got Leigh 9-17. I know Castleford have done well over the last few weeks. They've certainly turned the corner. I just think this might be, you know, again, depending on the results this weekend, I think this could be a game that's just a little bit too far for them in this resurgence.
Yeah.
I think Steph will back me up, and barring anything that happens this weekend, Leigh are getting more and more players back each week. I think, you know, Leigh, and no disrespect to Castleford, have got the better players when they're all on the field. Yeah. Castleford have done really well. Tex Hoy is a different player. The youngsters they brought in from other clubs or from within the ranks have certainly turned up for them. But I think, regardless of the result with Saints this weekend, I think Leigh are going to win this 9-17.
Steph?
Yeah, I think firstly, what a great stat that was in terms of Leigh's defence. I think it's only a conceded 16 points on average per game and be sat in 8th. When was the last time that happened? And I think if you look on the league table, we've got a plus 60, I think, which is, again, for in the bottom half of the table. It tells a few stories to a few people that in terms of how closely have been in games this season and been on the wrong side of results. But anyway, that's by the by. But I thought it was a great start, that. in terms of this game, it's going to be tough to back up from Saints. I'm expecting, Lee to put in a massive performance to try and turn Saints over this week, and I think that will take a lot out of us. And we have got quite a few games coming up in short periods of time with the rearranged Wigan fixture and stuff like that to come as well. So I think Adrian Lamb's going to be very coy with his selection. Cass is a tough ground to go to as well. It's a small pitch. I don't think that'll suit our style of play because we're quite expansive. I'm hoping we do have enough, but I think it's going to be a lot closer than what people may think. So I've gone Lee 1-8.
Well, I'm going Lee 9-17, and in the interest of time, we'll just scoot straight on because the next game is massive for me. If Warrington have beaten Wigan at the time of the show going out, if Warrington can beat KR, all of a sudden they're right in the hunt for the league leaders' shield. I think the game against Wigan and Warrington, if Wigan win that, I think the likelihood is it's going to be a shield all day long for the Wigan Warriors, looking at what fixtures they've got left. There's enough wins in there for Wigan to get over the line. But if Warrington were to win and then was to do the treble over KR, it makes the latter end of the season in terms of 1 and 2 easy. Equally for KR, KR win this weekend and KR was to beat Warrington. If Wigan lose to Warrington, this game for me will determine who is the most likely to challenge Wigan for the shield, if that makes sense. That's the way I see this game this weekend. Obviously, 23-12 in history, going the way of the Warrington Wolves. 4-1, a good record at the moment, the Warrington Wolves over Hull KR. They've done the double this year, 22-20 at Craven Park earlier in the season. That was a real grindy one, if you remember, really bad conditions. Warrington blew them away in the first 20 minutes at the Halliwell Jones, and they could never recover the Hull KR 20 points to 8 defeat at the Halliwell Jones. Attack, look at that, lads. Look at that. Points per game, Warrington 25, KR 24. Defence per game, 13 apiece. There is a hair's breadth between these two teams this season. Steph, this is going to be a belter. You'll be watching it.
Oh, 100%. And I think, if we had if we were privileged enough to have the bookies odds, I think they'd have it evens on this one. I think it's going to be that, one of those kind of games. Again, a lot's going to happen on this week's fixtures. But with it being so close, I think home advantage is going to come into it. So on this one, I have gone for a very close game. And this could be even a golden point prediction. I'll throw that one in there. Yeah. So I've gone Warrington 1-8 with the George Williams drop goal.
Wow. Okie dokie. Mr. Nixon.
A very, very close, this one. It's a battle of, bear in mind what might happen this weekend. To all intents and purposes, it's the battle of Matt Duffy against Mikey Lewis. The stats, the carries, the meters made, they're the two standout players for me in this game, coming head to head. I think, and with Steph, I think home advantage should play a part. I know Hull KR have turned us over a few times past few years on our own soil. I'm going Warrington 9-17. With a hopeful win over Wigan at the back of my mind, that will, to beat Saints, to beat Wigan both away, Warrington can then not give up and just lose at home to Hull KR, having done the hard work. And I think Sam Burgess is the coach now, despite reservations I may have had at the start of the season. He's the coach now that if they win those 2 away games, we can't let it slip now at home against Hull KR. If we lose against Wigan, he's a type of coach that will stress the importance of not losing 2 on the bounce to our main rivals at the top of the league. So I'm going 9-17.
Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. And as I'm sitting here, I think you've both got merit. I think you're 1-8 Wire, 9-17 Wire. I think history 4-1. Warrington at the moment seems to have a good record against KR, but KR are going to come. Whitbread at the weekend was outstanding in front row, and if Whitbread's firing, that's always dangerous. Tyrone May hopefully will be back for that one as far as KR are concerned. Lewis Class, Evans should be back as well. So, they're going to have that artillery that, let's be fair, I think actually both of these two teams, in terms of, attack from 50 metres out, 10 metres into your own half. These two teams have scored some wow tries this season. Yeah. So whether it be a gritty one near the line, we know that the likes of Litton, Parcell, Walker, Powell, they can do the gritty stuff near the line, but equally the pace and the power of both of these two sides, they can score from anywhere. It should be a great game. Both games have been good games, to be fair. This should be a belter. Absolutely. Can't split it. If he had to push me right now, without knowing the injuries and the rest of it, I'd probably say 9-17 Warrington, but that could change by the time we get to the round. Right, okay, we now move on. We move on to Hull FC taking on the Saints head-to-head. 3-2, believe it or not, to Hull FC. 4-1, though, the last... that's wrong. That's wrong. Forget that. My apologies. Don't know what's gone on there. 4-1 the last 5 to Saints, and they have played each other this year at Saints. 58 points to 8, an absolute hammering. Actually, it was 58 points to 0. My apologies. Don't know what's happened here. 58 points to 0. The attacking stats there, right, though, 25 plays 14, defence 30 plays 11. As remarkable as the win was against Wigan, Saints should have some bodies back. The likes of Knowles will be back. Whitley should be back for this one as well. They might be back this week. Can FC do a double over Wigan and Saints at the MKM, Greg?
No. I think as remarkable as that win was at the weekend, I think a couple of more minutes and Wigan would have snatched it. They tired. They had the yellow card and they put everything into that first 50, 60 minutes and deservedly won, by the way. I'm not saying that Wigan deserved to win it. Not by a long shot. Not by a long shot. I just think I think Saints will have bodies back, and I think the Saints will be stinging. They've not played brilliantly well, and I'm going Saints 1-9 though. 1-8. I'm not going a massive win.
You've been listening to John Costello too much, mate. 1-9. What are you doing, lads? What are you doing? Anyway, go on, carry on.
It's still my bedtime.
Good man. So you're going 1-8.
Yeah.
Steph?
I'm getting my Hail Marys out again here to try and get the prediction league. I think obviously it's going to be a real tough game against Lee this week. If Lee can win that, I think the pressure's really going to be ramping up on Wellens. And if this Hull FC team can beat Wigan at home, they most certainly can beat St Helens. So I've gone Hull FC 1-8.
Wow. I see it as Saints. I probably see it as Saints 9-17, but hey, I've been wrong once or twice this season. It's going to be interesting. I think, again, the other side of round 19, it's going to be very, very interesting to see who comes out on top of that. Right now, we get to a real interesting game. Again, forget the history. Don't know what's happened there. I've obviously lost my mind. 3-2 in favour of the Rhinos. This is a real battle for top 6. This really is a massive battle for top 6. It's a 4-pointer, let's be fair. They met each other in round 1 this year at Headingley Stadium. And, of course, it went the way of the Rhinos, 22 points to 16. Attacks, you can't split them. Defence, you can't split them. By now, Brad Arthur should be a Brad Arthur philosophy by this point. He'll have had a couple of games in charge, going up against perhaps the man who will replace him at Headingley, Paul Rowley. Rowley will want to, Leeds fans will be not only looking at their own team, but will also be looking at how well Salford are playing, and Paul Rowley is a part of this, in terms of potentially what happens next season. It's a real pick'em. It's going to be interesting. Again, one that you just have to sit and watch because it's going to be fascinating to see who comes out on top. Steph, who are you going with, Red Devils or Rhinos?
Yeah, it's a bit like the Warrington KR one for me. I think this one could be pretty much evens as well. In two very, very similar sides who have both had the periods of form and then it being hit and miss. Hence why they're in the positions they are in the league at the moment. It was a toss of a coin for me, this one, but I just think the Brad Arthur effects might just be coming into play. So I've gone 1-8. But again, this could be another one, which is golden point.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting in his pre-match press conference for this week's game that he talked about Lockie Miller and the need, Greg, that Lockie Miller needs to learn the game smarts of being a rugby league player. I said that on week. He needs somebody to put his arm around him, in the same way that Burgess has revolutionised Matt Duff there, and he has. Yeah. Brad Arthur needs to do the same for Miller. Because again, as good as the stats are, Alex Sharp will tell you they're not convinced of Lockie Miller at the Leeds Rhinos for whatever reason, and I think that's because of his game smarts at this time.
Yeah, well, I was going to say good stats.
He has,
Miller's
incredible.
got real good stats. But he just seems to let himself down on the odd occasion. Doesn't seem to read. There's times when he looks as though he can't read the game. And for a fullback, you know, you can have all the pace in the world, you can be the best tackle in the world, but if you can't read a game from fullback, you're going to be found wanting. Sometimes you're going to be found out.
Yeah.
I think it's going to take a lot of hard work to get Leeds back on the rails. I think they've put a sticking plaster on a wound at this moment in time, and I think it's going to need a lot more surgery for it to come to fruition. God, I should get up this early.
I'm having George Clooney off ER on here. Come on, Greg, lad. Get some more surgical analogies in there, lad.
Yeah, I'll be on casualty on Saturday.
Unbelievable.
I see Red Devils winning this 9-17.
9-17 to
Devils,
the Red Devils. It's a fascinating one. It really, really is. If you was to push me now, I fear for Red Devils. I do. But then again, nothing will give Mr. Rowley any more pleasure than to proving that one wrong. He's done it time and time again. It's a close one, this. I'm going 1-8. You could go 1-8 either side. I'm going to flip a coin. I'm going to go Rhinos. But I think it's going to be a close one. It's going to be well worth a watch. Right, the last game shouldn't take us long on this one. History, this is right this time. Since 2006, 20-10 in favour of the Dragons. That's interesting. The last 5-3-2 to the Catalan Dragons. That's interesting and all. Round 2, they met, of course, at the Cherry Red Record Stadium, and it was a mullering, if you remember, from the Dragons, 34 points to 0. The attack, tighter than you think. Dragons haven't been hot, really, in attack this year. And I think that the fact that 18-10 against the London Broncos in terms of the comparison there proves that point really, really well. But defensively, you know, that's where this is won and lost. 38 points conceded per game for London Broncos, 14 for the Dragons. In the interest of time, gentlemen, let's be brief. I'm going 18 plus the Dragons. I can't see anything but. Greg?
18 plus the Dragons.
Yeah, and Steph.
The Dragons have been blowing hot and cold this year, so I think it'll be a bit closer than that first game, but I've gone Catalan 9-17.
You've gone 9-17, a little bit closer. Right. Right, ladies and gentlemen, that's been a very, very different show. We hope you've enjoyed it. Like I say, we didn't want to leave you in the lurch on a Tuesday night. We know that you regulars like a bit of weekly. So there it is for you. Great discussion around the Man of Steel. There are predictions, albeit a week out. And like I say, we'll probably redo those. We'll put something out. It'll all be above board. The prediction leagues are out. You've already put it in there. It'll all be compiled. Of course, Schofields is in League Express. So we'll take them as and when that is published. But yeah, interesting times. Like I say, we're doing this well in advance. I want to thank Greg and Steph for their time this morning in order for us to do this. We're back this afternoon to record the next one for you. So that's commitment for you, ladies and gentlemen, is what I would say. But yeah, look, what a weekend. Some, like I say, fascinating games there. Should be another fantastic round of Super League. Like I say, don't forget, like, comment and subscribe. Don't forget the membership. Enjoy your rugby league this weekend. And yes, we will, even though me and Greg are not going to be in Britain, we're going to be on Sun Lounges. You will have another Super League Raw Weekly next week, 8 p.m. on a Tuesday, as always, because as we say every week, Steph,
can't be the better weekly.
Absolutely. All the best, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you next week. Bye for now.